All right, there it is. We're recording. So, I don't know. I guess what can we talk about? We can talk about a lot of stuff.
No doubt. Well, yeah, I guess we could start with the question I had, earlier. I think's pretty interesting, as far as uh, the whole karmic balance of how the prison system works. And it sounds like you had a lot of input with it. Um, so, I guess to summarize the question, it was whether or not the solitary confinement of a crime was due diligence or like a good karmic balance to the crime from like a karmic standpoint,
Yeah.
like an eye for an eye type of situation. And I guess my thoughts behind the question was how someone commits a crime, like in regards to natural law, it's like people are put in this system where they're almost protected from like nature taking its course from a quicker course, basically, balancing things on its own.
That's the kind
If
of
that makes sense.
So what I think you're saying is like that that confinement in the prison system, like being in a cell, how that's kind of retribution itself for the crime committed. Like if the punishment is equal to the crime, kind of almost.
Well, it's more like, is it actually? That's the question. Is that a uh, a good punishment, for people to go through? Because, like, I feel like it's not really an eye for an eye. You know, it's almost like keeping people that did something negative and putting them off to the side and just letting time go on. Um, you know, they're away from society. There is no balance happening. It's almost like a lose-lose for everybody.
Yeah.
I guess the best example would be like murder. Uh, Someone commits a murder and then they just spend time in a cell where the people that were affected by the murder, obviously they don't have to deal with this person in society, but it doesn't seem like a very clear balance.
I know what you mean. That makes a lot of sense, and that's exactly what I wanted to respond to that tweet. But it was like there was so much to say to that. It was hard to compress it. But the way I look at that is similar to what you were saying. Like it doesn't. I don't think it balances itself out because the. I'm trying to think how to explain this the right way because I understand this very much so because I keep myself kind of in confinement a lot. Like I don't go to work still. I spend most of my days in my head kind of like troubleshooting and planning things out. But there was a good time when I spent, and still I even do still, where I think about not crimes I did per se, like murder or robbery or shit like that, but like things I've done in my life, things that I regret. You know what I mean? And it's like those times when I'm alone and I have only the thoughts and emotions that are connected to that experience It's almost like a prison sentence for the most part. It feels like it because you're alone. You're stuck in your head to face the demons of what it was that you've done.
Yeah.
But now in the prison system, I mean, unless you're in solitary confinement and you only have your head to be in, you're surrounded by all that other bad energy with all those other dudes that are all in there for shit that they regret, but they're not given the chance to actually think about what it was that they've done. Now, it's probably fucked up sounding, but I think that if anyone in prison who really did like a serious crime, if they spent some time in solitary confinement, I'm sure that would really, really do a number on them. Not always in a good way. I mean, some people, they get stuck in those dark places and they can't get themselves out of it. I mean, that
Actual state of like hell, basically.
yeah, pretty much exactly that. It's pretty much that exact thing. It's like because
Yeah, go ahead.
those voices in your head, they're real. It's the people that you committed those sins or crimes against that are the ones that are attacking you and making you feel like shit. Because it kind of goes back to like what I always say about like forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
And like everything happens for a reason, recognizing that and really not just taking that for granted, but actually living by it and realizing that even though, yeah, you fucked up, you did it for a reason. It was a good reason. You just have to figure it out. And once you figure it out, then it makes everything okay. Just so to speak. So to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, like you can't beat a dead horse forever. I mean, it's okay to be angry at someone, but to carry it on for forever and ever, you'll drive yourself nuts doing that. And the same thing goes for if like you commit a crime and you really do want retribution for it. Like you do have to forgive yourself eventually. You can't just look at yourself and go, I'm a piece of shit, and there you remain for the rest of your life. I mean, you can if you really want to, but that just seems very exhausting to me.
Right. So basically, I guess trying to look at it from like a macroscopic level.
Okay.
Like, it's almost like these people. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of people that have been, you know, institutionalized for crimes that are not against natural law, or things that people have a natural right to do that are being penalized for. So there's that aspect, and then there's also that these people that are causing harm to other people, that are, it's basically like when you put them in a cell away from society. I had this thought that maybe it's like they're almost protecting these people from like stealing justice from God or the universe.
Okay.
Kind
I
of
think
like prolonging more misery for everybody involved.
okay, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I don't know how that aspect, really plays out, but
Well, and I think I know what you mean, is like by putting them in the cage, you're protecting them from karmic justice coming towards them.
right.
And a way you can think of that is kind of like what I was going at before. Like when you learn to forgive yourself of your past transgressions, you typically get a sense of relief in that you're no longer you no longer have that grudge that's attached to it against yourself, going, oh man, I'm such a bad person because I did XYZ. Like when you learn to forgive yourself, what that means is like we were saying, everything happens for a reason. It's looking back on that
Right.
event and going, oh, you know what, yeah, those guys, they kicked my ass, but because they kicked my ass, I learned not to fuck with a large group of guys that are bigger than me. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, or to defend yourself better,
yeah,
or whatever.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like that. But now, if you can at least this is what I found with even the petty little crimes I've committed throughout my life, that even if you learn to forgive yourself, as long as you can like look inside and go, yeah, you know what, I did that. I allowed myself to do that and be that person, but I'm glad because now I know I don't want to be that person anymore because I don't like the way that feels. I don't like what it feels like to hold on to that.
Yeah.
When you can learn to forgive yourself like that, it I think that's more of a punishment than being put in a cage, because the scary voices in your head that really like tear into you for the things that you've done are usually scarier than whatever type of guys are in prison. I gotta imagine they're all nice and fun. I mean, it seems like I
Well,
think
who knows? I mean,
I got this hunch that prison has a bad rap. I don't
yeah.
know. Just a
Not
hunch,
something to
man.
look forward to. Although I have tested a few people. If they were given internet access, like video games, like being able to play online,
Mm-hmm.
and a free bed to stay in and a free meal every day, 3 meals a day,
Yeah.
with that they don't have to work, and a lot of people I spoke to are like, yeah, that sounds all right.
Yeah.
And aside from like the other people there, but
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound bad at all. It sounds like a fucking resort.
yeah, right. Yeah, you could just have your Xbox, cable TV or whatever. I don't think there'd be much of a difference for the way I live, and
Yeah.
but another question I had for you was, as far as how karma works, because my upbringing, even going to church every weekend, karma wasn't something that was ever brought up. Even though there are verses that in the New Testament, even that what's the word I'm looking for? Confirm it.
Gotcha.
So the question I have is, everything has like the pendulum rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
So with the bad action, how is that weight determined? Like as far as the repercussions that would happen, or good action, I guess.
That's a good question.
How are things carried out?
Well, it's funny you say that. It's really funny you say that because that's something I've been thinking about lately. Because I study that. I study that stuff and heavily. And it's so funny to see how easily everyone believes in karma, but nobody ever likes to acknowledge it when it's a good thing. Only when it's bad.
Right.
Then
Run
we-
the ditch.
Yeah, it's the miracles that everyone likes to ignore, which I pay attention to all the time. That's what I spend most of my time doing. Is like for myself, because I still write all the time, so I'm always writing everything that happens because, especially lately, like a lot of weird stuff has been happening. Like not even little synchronicities, like huge, crazy things, and it's like when I write and I go back and look at these things, like I read what I wrote, and I'm like, holy shit. All of those things for the past 2 weeks that were slightly relevant to what I'm doing right now, if one of those things had not happened, I wouldn't be in this spot right this second. And like doing that backtracking and looking at how all the pieces kind of fit together, and how, oh wow, just because this one guy, he forgot to fucking give me a call back, it got me pissed off enough that I sent a text message to this person who had this opportunity that they needed me for, and now it turns into this whole interesting little spider's web of deceit and intrigue as you're watching the players who are all involved in this little play that's going on in your life, and it's really amazing. And and I consider those little synchronicities and miracles good karma. But I also have a different definition of good and bad. Like, I don't look at them as two separate things anymore. I try not to. I look at it like this. Like, good is only good if you think it's good. If you think, what's that line I like to say? Good is considered evil to the evildoer who thinks he's a good guy. So it's like, good for you is bad for me. Though what you consider good karma, I might consider bad. But you might consider my good bad and my bad good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen somewhere that, like, early religions, I guess, they, demons and angels were, like, the same thing.
Exactly.
Because of how they come to a person, or, like, how I was talking to a guy earlier today about how that works. Basically, like if someone was bringing you the truth about something, you know, that was ready for, you would almost view that person as like a demon, you know, or a hurtful person, even though they were actually doing you a service by telling you the truth.
Yeah, exactly. People always demonize people who tell the truth. That's always a thing, which is funny because it what'd you say? I didn't catch that last thing.
That's at least how I interpreted it. I mean, I know, like, I was looking at Korean too, and it's kind of along the same lines where people have a role to come in and, like, you know, fuck with you, basically, and it's like, you know, they're just doing a role you left, you know, that helps you learn whatever it is that you need to learn at that particular time. As a, like, stepping stone, I guess. So,
yeah,
very interesting work. Like, for example, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, as a kid, was picked on, you know, and he decided he was going to do something about it. You know, became this massive bodybuilder that elevated him into, you know, acting, and then eventually, you know, governor of California. So those people never would have messed with him. As a kid, he never would have gotten to that position of influence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, something along those lines, I guess.
Well, yeah, exactly that. Like, you could trace back. See, people that are famous are a little bit easier. You can trace back and look at their lives from what you know of it, and kind of go, wow. See how things kind of just fell into place for them, but also, like, they leave out all of the trials and tribulations that go in between all that shit too.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult to really put yourself into something that deeply, because there's always, it's like you said, there's always people trying to fuck with you and bring you down, and you know, I mean, realistically, the way I've been seeing it lately is nobody's really even fucking with you. It's just that's how they roll. It's just the way that we're interpreting it. We're interpreting it the wrong way. You know, it's like what looks like being fucked with you is actually almost like someone being genuine. Like you were saying, like, they demonize the truth. We even do it ourselves. It's like a subconscious thing. We don't even realize it sometimes. But an easier
question about the rhythm, as far as, like, the swing to the left equals the swing to the right. So, I guess the question is, you know, how do we know how far it's swinging to the left? what gauge is there for that to know how much of a swing to the right you'll get?
Oh, it's in my experience, especially on an emotional standing, um, it's usually the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. That's usually what I gauge it
Okay.
on and go, Jesus Christ, I don't like feeling like this. This is the worst thing ever. It's usually, you can tell you're at your worst when you want to kill yourself, and that's a scary phrase for people to admit to say. But it's what I've learned is that a lot of when you when you do start dealing with these karmic issues in your head, which is what I do a lot, you you have to face like deep aspects of yourself that are scary sometimes. And what happens is you feel these emotions, and they're new, you're not used to them, so they make you scared. And what do we normally do when we are afraid of something? We want to run away from it, but being that it's in your head, it's how you feel, you can't run from it. So instinctively your first thing to do is go, oh my god, I gotta end it, I can't do this anymore. But if you sit with it a little bit and acknowledge it, and really go, and not really commit yourself to doing it, but understanding why you're feeling that way. Once you can figure out why you're feeling that way, and it will come to you, because it always comes to you.
Yeah.
Usually at the last second, with a phone call or just somebody popping up. I've had a couple weird experiences like that, and when as soon as that passes, that's usually when you know, okay, I should have a couple of cool days coming up soon, because that sucked. Because that's usually how it works. Like, so the pendulum swings all the way to the right, and you get these deep, dark emotions that you have to deal with. And once it hits that peak, and it's not always suicidal thoughts. I mean, I'm going extreme case.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just I need a fucking hug. You can kind of gauge
Yeah.
about where it's going to go from there. Because what happens in my mind, at least, is because I've noticed that the more you clear out in your head, in your current life, the more you can start thinking about your future. And once you start thinking about like what you want to do, where you want to go, what you need to do to get there, type of shit, new fears start popping up, new challenges. In that, let's say you got to do a teaching class. Oh, great example. I just had I had my first teaching thing last night. I was teaching or no, 2 nights ago. I was doing a journaling workshop.
Oh, that already happened?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was Wednesday.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and all day, well, for 2 weeks, I was shitting my pants because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I had ideas, and plus I had all this other stuff that started popping up in my head from the past. And I had all of these, plus these other couple projects I'm working on, and just everything was just pounding away at me for 2 weeks straight. Like, I really didn't even get that much time to even devote into thinking about what to do for the class, let alone how I was going to fill an hour and a half. But throughout that week, I noticed that all the fears that I was like really facing, like I was having like really bad anxiety attacks. And what I would learn at the end of those attacks was exactly the perspective I needed to understand to bring me to realize that I didn't need to worry about what I was going to do for the class. I was going to kill it no matter what. And I would still have these anxieties like, oh, I should do this. I should start writing out an outline. I should do a syllabus. I should do all this other shit. And it was like really freaking me out that I wasn't doing it. And the day of the class came, and I was just nervous as fucking hell up until the point that it was time to talk. And then as soon as that happened, this other person kind of just took over, and I did an amazing job. I was really really happy with myself. Now, granted, only
Right.
3 people went. Two of them were obligated, and one came with one of the other ones. So,
So,
but they all had a great time. They all had
yeah.
a good time, and that's really what I learned was that that whole experience itself, that class, was, I think, probably the best example of what can happen when you really start to pay attention to shit like your karma and how you're presenting yourself to yourself and to others. And it's like when you really begin to let go, and everyone says to let go, and you know what, like, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but people always talk about letting go, let go of this, let go of that, but I don't think they really know what that means. Maybe they do, I don't know. They don't seem like it to me, at least not the way I interpret it. And by letting go, I just mean letting go of control of the situation, to realize that you can't control it because it's going to happen no matter what. It's going to happen whether you, well, you can't force it because you can't force anything. All forcing does is just delay the inevitable. And it was like everything I put into this class, or what I tried to, which all I was doing, I was just teaching them how I got started, which was about a year ago. It was actually really interesting because the girl that was helping me with the uh, the event page, she posted it on the year to the day that I first put pen to paper. It was actually really interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was cool. Um, but I looked at it like that. All that shit, like, I don't remember. I don't know how much you remember from our old talks last summer, but like all that shit I was going through back then, and all the shit I've been going through since then. It's like everything was leading up to this moment. Like I can, even this conversation, to be exact. I mean, I can look back and backtrack and go, okay, what was the what led to this moment, and then I can go, okay, well, this is because of that, and then look back and go, oh, because of that, because of that, because of that. The principle of causality. Every effect has a
Right.
cause. If you look at the cause and effect of everything from this moment backwards, it's like it's really interesting to see how, if anything would have changed in such a way that, if anything would have changed, this might not even be happening. Even to you even posting that question about prison, like imagine if you didn't post that, would we be having this same conversation right now?
Right.
You know, and it's like, where am I going with this? Where's I going with this?
How each step had to happen in the exact way it did in
Yeah,
order for,
exactly.
yeah.
So what I mean is, what I started to learn, especially towards the end, over the past couple weeks, is that you really don't have to put in all as much effort as you think you do. Sometimes you do. I mean, you always do, but it's not as strenuous.
Not more than what you're capable of doing.
Exactly, exactly. Because even like the stuff that I do is, what do I do? Everyone always asks me what I do. I don't know how to answer that. I've been trying to think of it. Why does it matter what I do? I sit in my head all day and I just try to solve stuff. I try to solve all problems, all the problems. I've gotten really good at it. But there's days where it's like fucking exhausting. Like you sit in your head all day. Oh my goodness, it's like I got all these great ideas of where I want to go and what I want to do and things I have to do to get to the points where I want to to get to do the stuff that I want to do. And it's like it's fascinating to have a conversation with someone right now, and then my head in my brain, it automatically starts formulating every possible scenario that could lead from that point on. You know what I mean?
Trying to guess what the paths are.
Yeah.
What the path.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It starts building a roadmap automatically. But like a million roadmaps all at the same time. Sometimes it gets like fucking frustrating. My head is like a goddamn construction site all the time. But
Like a Chinese roadmap.
oh yeah, dude. And some days it's like I was in bed all day today just because it's been so mentally and emotionally exhausting. Especially just building up to Wednesday, because Wednesday I was out of my head, so nervous, but it happens. It happens. Same thing happened to me at my sister's wedding last year. I didn't know what the fuck to say. I was out of my mind, almost shaking, and then the guy handed me the mic, and I look at everybody, went oh shit in my head, and then I put my mouth to it, and I just started saying all this stuff, and it came out amazing. I think it's, and that's just me talking. I think like even in everyday situations that we find ourselves in, sometimes the best course of action is taking no action and just letting it fizzle out on its own. And you start to see that there really wasn't much for you to be doing anyway, except for sitting back and just waiting for everybody to catch up to you. If that makes sense.
So along those lines, something that's been popping up a lot lately is Taoism. Like we have a sales meeting every day, and my general manager, who's really big on material things and trying to motivate us through goals and things, gaining these certain things, and he came across something and shared with us about the poem about an empty boat, and it was actually sent by the owner to him because he gets so frustrated about things that he can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the story about this empty boat is this guy's going down the river and he hits another boat, and he gets so upset, and he washes up on shore and loses everything. He's so mad, and he's like looking for the guy who was in the other boat that hit him, and there was no other boat. And then he kind of like laughed it off, like, oh, well, I can't be mad at anybody, versus if there was somebody that hit him intentionally, and then one of the other guys that worked pulled up the longer version of that poem, and basically it was written by this Taoist monk. I don't know if they have monks, but like a figure for that, religion. And basically the real summary of the story is to empty everything, like letting go of basically all wants and needs, I guess. Not necessarily like, I guess it might be, along the lines of like your true will, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
it's like,
so it got me thinking as far as like a lot of times on this life worker path, we think about trying to do so much good, or put ourselves out there versus like allowing things to happen, in the sense of like almost like a gray Jedi. If you're familiar.
it's funny you say that.
Which so last point, the guy that brought me the longer version, one of the things that he refrains from is doing anything that's like very joyful. Like he doesn't put a whole lot of goals out there to try to achieve, because in his mind, if he goes and enjoys that peak of happiness, he knows there will be a fall that is equally bad or equally unhappy. So,
very wise monk.
yeah, that's a hard thing to grasp.
It is. It's really difficult to grasp. But he's absolutely right. Well, you know what? It's not. It's not. Think of it like the principle of rhythm, like with the pendulum swinging back and forth, like you said, like as much as he goes to enjoy something, he's gonna have an equal swing backwards. Now, my experimentation with this stuff is all been mental. I live it all out in my head. And I haven't seen too many physical results come my way. I mean, I have really cool opportunities that pop up all the time. I mean, like this writing class thing was fucking huge. This was huge for me. I mean, 3 people, I don't give a shit. I even told them I didn't care if there was one person that showed up. Just the fact that I was doing it. That 1 year ago, when I first started writing, I had this vision of me being a teacher of some sort, and here we are a fucking year later. I fucking taught a class on the year anniversary of when I started doing the cards, mind you.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, and check this shit out. I got to check my book, because I remember I did mention you when we first started talking. That was about a year ago, also.
Yeah. Wow. Synchronicities, huh?
Yeah, man. It's stuff like that that's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And like I'll go out with my brother and stuff, and we'll see weird shit. And I always make sure I point it all out to him, because he's actually a real smart kid. He's getting like really, not really into this shit, but there's days where his head's in just on point, where I'm like, Jesus Christ, can't believe he just said that. I'm trying to think of how I can explain this story. So the night that the anniversary of my aunt's and my father's death was this past May. They died a year apart, but on the same day, and which happens to be the same day as my aunt's father, my mother's father, my grandfather, back in 1952. But right after my father died, my mother got this new car, and her license plate was like, I forget the exact one, but it had my father's and my aunt's initials in it, as well as the day, 5/8, the day they died. It was like fucking really fucking freaky. Then this past year, my brother, he was, I don't know what he was doing, but he was just calculating all these numbers. Like, we were all 11 years apart, and he was factoring in the dates where they died, the dates that they were born, years apart, shit like that. And he had come up with this little, like, 8-number little sequence. And it was funny because when you added up all the numbers, it wasn't her birthday, but it was a month, or it was like the number 6 or something, right? Which I just pointed out. I'm like, oh, you know what? The 6th sign of the zodiac is Cancer, or the 7th rather. Is it right? Is it the 7th? Or is it the 8th? I think it's the 8th. Some shit like that. Whatever number Cancer was, and we're sitting there with my mom, and we said the Cancer thing. She's like, oh my God, well, what does it have to do with anything? We're like, oh, well, Aunt Helen's a Cancer, and my father died of cancer. She's like, oh my God, goodness gracious, this is crazy. But it was one of those fucking moments. It was like, holy shit, man, good job.
It's
And now I know that this story made more sense if you were there, but it's like, you can find meaning in anything. Yeah, a lot of that was coincidence, but you know what? I don't believe in coincidence. So, no, it wasn't a coincidence. It was there exactly the way that it needed to be for us to see that, to make those connections.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it being the day that she had died, it was even freakier. Freakier if you want to believe in freaky stuff. I think that stuff is normal at this point.
More than coincidence, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, everything is. When you completely take that word out of your vocabulary altogether, and you really look at everything happens for a reason, like, really opens your eyes to a lot of shit. Yeah, a lot of it seems like coincidence, and some of it makes you go, "Oh my God, am I crazy?" There's a lot of days where shit happens, and I just go, "Oh my God, what the fuck is going on? This is bonkers. This is absolutely fucking bonkers." And but it's not. It's not. It's like it's there. You can see it. You can touch it. You can feel it. But you can't explain it to anybody because to everybody else, it's a coincidence. So I guess I do believe in coincidences. Everyone else's coincidence is a miracle for somebody else.
Yeah, and I even, some people are just so removed from that possibility, even just pointing things out on a physical level, and tracing things and trying to explain to them how things are designed and planned, and they just can't picture it, can't believe it, or I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I try to figure that out.
it's so simple to me that, it's like night and day, I guess.
But
Clear,
it's as we're saying it, I'm thinking of it like this, and I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. It's being afraid of of um of making a change. It's afraid of the unknown, of what could happen, because it's like you got to go down a scary path because you get so used to doing the same thing over and over again with the same people over and over again. Sometimes when it's time for that to come to an end, we shit our pants, and we fight and try to hold on to it as much as we can, when in reality the best thing is just to let go of control and just good luck everybody. But that's a difficult thing to do because nobody wants to do that, and a lot of the crazy weird shit that I've done was just to do it because I'm like, fuck it, no one, everyone always says they're gonna do this shit, but nobody actually does it. Or I've never seen anybody who's done this before. Let me see. Let me see what really happens. And I've learned that holding on to regrets is the worst thing that we can do about anything. That a regret is just a lesson that you haven't learned yet. And when you look at those things, like if you ask yourself, like, what's something I regret? And
right.
and you look at it and go, well, why do I really regret it? Always ask why. I love that question. Why? Ask why. Why do I regret this? And you're not going to have a good reason. And then you're going to have to look at it and then realize, oh, I never looked at it like that before.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess a big part of that is where people are in the present, as far as their happiness, their awareness. So, like, I always come back to that too. And anytime something pops up, I used to have, like, a year ago when I first started talking to you, I used to have a lot of, like, embarrassing memories pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been pretty much, like, eliminated at this point. And I think it's because I've gotten more, pretty happy with where I am looking back on things that, I don't need to be remembered or reminded of how I got here, I guess. So, without regret. So, those are the things, like, once you're aware of how you're able to get to where you are, there are no regrets, if you're happy in your spot, right? If that makes sense.
I know what you mean. I look at it a little different, though. I look at regrets as, I like being reminded how I got here. I like the bad stuff. because, like I was saying when we first started, like good and bad, they mean
Yeah.
what you want them to mean. And when you start to look at the bad stuff, the embarrassing stuff, the shit that you're ashamed of, and I was actually talking about this in that class too, is when you look at that stuff and allow yourself to explore, like, what am I embarrassed about, what am I mad about, what is it I don't like about that situation, and then ask yourself, why don't I like it? Ask yourself that question. That question that pisses everybody off. Why? What makes me mad about this? And what's going to end up making you mad about it is that you didn't figure it out. You didn't get it right the first time. But the beauty of it is that you're not supposed to get it right the first time or the second time. I mean, you always get it right, and you always get it wrong at the same time. Right and wrong are the same thing. It's take away the negativity of it. Take away it being wrong, and instead being an experience that you were new to. It's like going on a roller coaster for the first time and almost shitting your pants.
Right.
It's like
uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And thrilling.
Exactly that. And it's the uncomfortable part that is actually the guide. It's the teacher. Because that uncomfortability, it's kind of like almost pulling you to that situation that you need to be in. Like that class, I was making a million excuses why I shouldn't have done it the day of, even on the way there. And as soon as it started, I realized I needed this. I needed this to prove to myself that I can do it. Not even just prove to myself, but to remind myself, like, stop being a fucking retard. You know you can do this. Stop being nervous about shit.
Yep.
And shit. I lost my train of thought.
Or like being comfortable, forced, being a teacher, a guide.
Okay, yes, okay, perfect. So, whoa. So what I was saying was that uncomfortable feeling, that I don't want to do it, doubt, fear, all that shit. What it's doing is it's pulling you to where you need to be so that you can learn not how to do something, but that you can do it. That you don't need any kind of studying or really masochistic ritual that you do every day to make sure that you are the best of the best. No, you're just doing you. You're just doing you. And yeah, there's going to be that fear, but again, the fear is there to remind you that there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yep.
Which is an interesting way of looking at it. It makes being afraid not that scary. I mean, being afraid still feels the same, but once you realize that there's a purpose for it, you almost want to egg it on and push yourself to those boundaries in your head. I don't do any. I do crazy shit. Nothing like out of control. I go walking through the quote seedy parts of town. I like to just do what people think. What's unconventional. And I found that in doing that, like, it's not even that doing it. It was one of those things. I just guided to do it. I just felt like I was doing the right thing. It just seemed right. Spending my days going for walks, sitting on park benches and thinking about what I'm gonna do for the next 5 years, how I'm gonna get there, what I need to do. Like I was saying, planning. Because I'm at a point where, like, I've proven to myself that I can do this thing that I'm trying to do, which is make the things in my head more popular. And this class was like a great first step. I enjoy working with the organization, and I'm glad that they gave me the opportunity to do it. I don't know if they're going to give me another one. I think I'm a little too much, but that's okay. It's okay. I have a bunch of other plans, so I like to have a plan B, C, D, E, F, G. Unfortunately, they don't usually pop up until like the last second. but but exactly that. Exactly with the fear and shit, with the guides, and it just brings you to where you are supposed to be almost. I mean, this whole writing thing, I've always wanted to be a writer of some accord. I don't know why. I always did. It just the whole idea of creating a universe or world is like a really interesting idea. Because even when I was a kid, I was kind of interested in the concept of God as a mind, kind of similar to like the principle of mentalism.
Right.
Like I always thought of it like that in a sense. I remember when I was in high school, I wanted to be a creator of 3D animation because I always thought I'm like I would be the god of a world. I can do to those people whatever I want to do to them. It's like that god complex that everyone gets when they play Sims.
Yeah, I was just thinking of Sims, and there's a couple other games like Civilization and stuff that let you be in control like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like when you start to let go of situations and just stop carrying the burdens that are placed on you. Acknowledge them. Don't ignore them. I mean, like, I like to look in the mirror sometimes and go, yeah, you're a real jerk today. You shouldn't have done that. That wasn't a very nice thing to do. I don't mind calling myself an asshole or looking back at my shitty aspects because like I said, everything, like we both said, everything happens for a reason. I needed to do those bad things and stupid things and shitty things so I can learn why not to. It's like when your parents say, well, you know better than that. You were brought up better than this. No, I wasn't. You never told me not to do that exact thing. No one ever said not to do that or why. I had to learn it on my own. Because that's what it is.
Yeah. Right.
And it's all just that learning experience. Because you know what, this whole writing thing may be for today. I might be over it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I look at it like this: dreams. I like to always dream big. Start at the end of my dreams, and then work my way backwards, and figure out how to get there. And that class was just like one stepping stone. It's like, oh, okay, I did that one. Next thing.
Yep. Tool that serves a purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you still do the cards?
I do once in a while, but you know what? It's weird because I keep on getting the same reading for everybody, so I haven't been. And it's literally the same message for everybody is it's going to end soon. Good things are coming. Your karmic rewards are coming.
Oh wow.
Every time, like for the past I haven't been doing many. I only did maybe three in the past 3 weeks. I don't really even do them for myself anymore. I might flip a card or two just to have fun, but it's weird to explain, but it's like I don't need them anymore.
That's what I've seen where, Victor Odo,
Mm-hmm.
when he's saying about, like, taking on, like, cards, journaling, and, something else he likes. Pendulum or something?
Yeah, I think so.
And he says eventually you get to a point where you don't need that stuff to help you, guide you or anything. I guess you get so used to recognizing that intuitive force.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine about crystals. I'm not really into those things at all. I think it was my brother, maybe. I forgot. It was someone. And the way I was looking at it was, I do believe those crystals help to an extent, vibrationally. If you look at it from a vibrational standpoint,
Yeah.
because all they all are evolved rocks, technically. When your body integrates that frequency, that conscious frequency, because consciousness is just like a radio dial. It's just when you turn the dial, it changes stations. That rock is emitting a different frequency than you, and your body needs to get used to it. And when your body gets used to it, you no longer need those rocks, those stones, or whatever you want to call them. And the same thing with like pendulums and cards. Like the cards, they have their own like vibrational signature. They're pieces of paper, but they have a meaning to them. That the image literally has a frequency to it that is equivalent to an emotion. It's different for everybody. And when you allow yourself to finally feel that emotion, you integrate that frequency of that card. And then you can start to see that emotion outside of your existence. You can see it in other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that kind of answers a question I had from a while back. It was a Manly P. Hall quote that said about man will always be guided by the stars until he learns how to rule them, I think.
Yeah.
I'm really butchering that quote, but
it was a good one.
yeah, it's along those lines, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like when you start to realize that, like, because even with astrology, what I've learned is that, yeah, initially they're spot on interpretations of your zodiac placements, but the more you start to overcome those, like, once you get into like that karmic astrology, and once you start getting over all that stuff, you start to realize that you actually have the characteristics of every zodiac inside of you. It's just which ones you choose to use. And ultimately, I think that's kind of like, if you want to go like that spiritual, mystical, metaphysical road of esotericism, what the point of esotericism is, like the Masons and the Rosicrucians, and what the ultimate teachings are, what the hexagram and all that shit is you, that it's all in you. That's all, that it is you. You are the reason everything happens, for a reason. That you are the center of your own little universe, and the more that you learn about yourself and the way that you work in your own consciousness, and you build up these new perceptions, because that's ultimately what those fears and doubts and regrets are all about. They're there to teach you how to look at things at a slightly different perspective than what you're comfortable doing. And the reason it's so scary for us is those 4 magic words I used to love to say a lot, which I could be wrong. That you could be wrong, that your current perception on reality isn't real.
Yeah, I love that line. I have taken that into my almost daily vocabulary. Very powerful. Yeah.
It is, for 4 simple words.
Oh yeah.
And when you learn those new perceptions, it's almost like getting a new set of eyes. You start to look at everything differently. Like I don't get pissed off at people too much anymore. I mean, I do. Like, and I get little nasty little grudges I hold against people, but they go away really quick because I'm so used to, quote, overthinking, which I don't believe in overthinking. There's no such thing as overthinking. It's just thinking. Whoever's telling you that you're overthinking doesn't want you to think. That's why you're... And when you look at these grudges and problems, like even before they even happened, even going, oh, you know what, I spilt the sugar, someone's going to get mad. What am I going to do? How am I going to explain this? And once you overanalyze it enough, like it might take you about 15, 20 minutes, you waste 15, 20 minutes thinking about that problem, you realize that it's not a problem. Like, oh, I just spilled sugar. What the fuck am I so afraid of? what the hell was that all about? Because I realized why it's not a problem. It's not a problem because it's just sugar. And if it really bothers me that much, I can go get more sugar and refill what I spilt. And no one's going to want to kill me because they're rational enough to realize that it's just sugar.
Right.
It was my own fear. My own fear of what would happen if I dropped the sugar. And just even something that's stupid, but that's a whole new perception that, you know what, next time you might purposely dump the sugar just to prove the point to yourself that, you know what, it's just sugar, nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
And those new perceptions, as we integrate them, we start to, we don't even realize it, but they just start blending in with what we already have, creating like a newer version of us. And I think it's kind of like with like Odo and all those other guys, they like to talk about when they say that newer, better version of you. It's that you upgraded with that new perception that you didn't have before. Those new set of eyes that you're looking at the world with. It's very interesting. Like it's almost, it gets to a point where they're like Pokemon. You want to catch them all.
Yeah.
Like have every perception that there is possible, because like I like to say to people, perception is reality to those who are perceiving it. And there's 8 billion people on the planet, roughly. And 8 billion people, that's 8 billion perceptions, 8 billion different realities. That's a lot you can learn from people. Because even just a small conversation with someone, you can learn a lot. And it's more than just the literal words, but even like the undertones, because I love going back and like that's why I love going on Twitter a lot, because I like reading what people say, and usually I'll respond to their tweets, not what I know they want to hear, so I want to agree with them, but
Yeah.
the underlying message, the underlying meaning of what they're trying to say. I try to guess, and then I respond further.
Almost like it's two different topics or two different.
Exactly, 2 different conversations going on.
Yeah.
And people don't like that. People, they stop talking to me. You know that Gary the numbers guy?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, me and him, we had a little tussle for a little bit.
Number 33, right?
Yeah. He was an interesting character. I wanted to know him better, but he didn't like me.
No.
No, I kept on questioning him. He didn't like that.
So he's talking to a psychologist.
No, worse than that. I think he thought he was talking to the devil.
Oh. Well, you know, it's like the devil walks around with a mirror, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why people are afraid of him.
Exactly. And hey, like I one man's Christ is another man Antichrist. Another
Yeah.
man's Antichrist.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Which, that's another interesting topic. I was telling my friend the other day, I'm like, he asked me if I wanted to do a documentary on like my philosophy on life. I was like, yeah, man, that sounds cool. I'm like, and later on we could do a documentary on how I can prove that there's an Antichrist. I can prove him using the Bibles, and I can prove that he's here. 100%. But you gotta know all the other stuff, because otherwise, like, it's when you get into the religious stuff is where everything starts getting a little confusing. They're not really that confusing.
Yeah.
You
It's,
get,
that's a big thing, is trying to get people to not think so literally.
yeah. And you know what? That's funny you say that, because when I said to my friend about the Antichrist, he laughed a little bit. I was like, well, you're looking at it from a literal standpoint. You're thinking of a guy with horns. I'm talking about someone who represents a position, a spiritual title. It's more than just a fucking dude with bat wings coming out of him. It's an actual. How do you put it? Did you ever see Dune?
No, but I did see someone mention how, like, David Rockefeller with the whole 9/11, like, that whole thing was, he was trying to gain that title. I mean, it could, It could be like, from my perspective, it could be from like a, one man type of thing, or just many, a consciousness, I guess.
Yeah, it's like think of it like, you know how like the Gnostics have the Christ title, consider
No.
it like Christ consciousness. Yeah, Christ
I'm
consciousness.
not familiar with that actually means, but I'm assuming, unfortunately, that it's an ascension, of acknowledging we're all one, and everything that goes with that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's it's just a state of mind, really. But it's like you said, it's a frequency. It's a frequency.
Okay.
It's a spiritual. It's a conscious frequency. Consider it like, okay. Imagine like thinking in terms of hermeticism, right? So we're gonna go consciousness. Imagine consciousness is like a thermometer. Okay. We'll say hot is God and cold is Satan, and we'll max it out at 100 degrees and negative 100 degrees. So all those degrees in between, zero being base human consciousness. Okay, you following?
Yep.
Okay. So Christ consciousness would be 100 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
The opposite would be the equivalent of the Antichrist, because that would be like that Satan frequency, where up top would be that God frequency, so to speak.
Okay.
And essentially they're the same thing. The same thing in that, like, the Christians have their Antichrist, which is going to be a man who rises up and fakes being Christ, right?
Right.
But the second coming of Christ will be this spiritual aspect of Christ.
Right.
The Jewish religion, they have what's called the Moshiach, the Messiah.
Yep.
He is what Christ was. Not a God, but a teacher. So the Moshiach, the Messiah of the Jewish religion, isn't a God. He's just someone who has interpreted the book the way it was supposed to be, I guess, or in a different way, in a way to free the children of Israel. Now, what that's describing is a man teaching the words of Christ, but not for Christ. That's the Antichrist that they're talking about. Literally, the Antichrist. The Christians don't even realize that, because the Christians believe that it's this spiritual, evil entity that's going to come and blow up the world, which it's going to blow up the world, but not in the way that people think. I mean, it's like the world's already burning. Nobody can see it yet, though. What this person, I would suppose, do is just teach people to wake up. That's it. Wake the fuck up.
It's like the word anarchy. People view that as like chaos, as like the worst thing, as like the worst form of government or state of a country if they're in a state of anarchy. And when really it just means that there is no ruler.
Mm-hmm.
There's no master there.
Exactly.
Never existed,
But-
which would truly be the freest form for individuals.
I absolutely. I think, but you know what? Like, an anarchy, it's in the name. An is Greek for no, and archy government. So no government. It's a rule where people just rule themselves as individuals, like you said. It's,
Right.
And what would be interesting, and it really would be the most beneficial form of government, because at least the way that I understand life and existence from my personal perspective, is that there is no government. The government's make believe, but you don't need it. You don't need it. And if
I keep seeing that pop up a lot too. Yeah.
what's that?
How like the whole system of government is only as powerful as you believe it is.
Yeah, 100%. If the only form of control that they have over anyone is fear. Once you stop being afraid of them, they don't have any power over you whatsoever, because you realize that it's just a bunch of actors. They're playing make believe, because those people that you see on TV aren't the same people that go home. They put on a show for the camera. I was looking at like speeches, someone's speech recently, and how they just read off of cue cards. Like those aren't people. Those are robots. Because
Yeah.
a real person has a conversation like this. They talk with their mouth, and they don't require someone to write words for them. And to be perfectly honest, who's the person writing those words, and who told them to write those words, and what's really going on? Like, who are the people that are behind the curtains? Because let's be perfectly honest, these people who give these speeches on TV, and I'll even lump Trump in there too a little bit. I mean, because honestly, I don't know who speechwriter is. Until I'm the speechwriter, I don't know who they are.
Right.
And I don't know what their agenda is, because there is an agenda. There's always an agenda. Everyone has an agenda on everything that they do, be it minuscule or not. And that's not a bad thing. It's absolutely not a bad thing. I don't think, I mean, for instance, like, I do believe that there is some serious background stuff going on in the government, if it even exists anymore. I actually had a thought the other day that the government, that what you're seeing on TV is just for show, that there's not even there. That is not even there anymore. That it's just literally actors walking around Washington D.C. and they're just doing what they have memorized.
Like a show. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. How
Because
about that?
that would be something, right?
Yeah.
Because it's funny, like I like to be obnoxious when I'm out sometimes, and I like to call people out, and not call people out, but just like if I'm out with somebody, I don't mind pointing at the bullshit I see around me, and I don't mind speaking as loud as people can hear, because they know I'm right. Either that, or they just think I'm fucking crazy Looney Tune, which I could be. But I see like so many people that are just, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about nothing. They don't give a fuck about what is possible. They don't give a fuck about what's not possible. They just kind of caught in this cycle of almost misery.
Like they gave up on everything.
Exactly.
You're just living.
Yeah. Just exactly that, living. It's like almost artificial, it seems. But you know, I mean, I can't say nothing, because I used to be the exact same way. I mean, people don't like the way that I do things now. That's alright. I mean, I don't do it for people like me. But I look back on the way that I used to live my life, and I really didn't fucking like it. Like a year ago, I didn't like that shit. I hated having a job that I couldn't stand. I mean, could use some, well, I do have money. I don't see, that's the fun part, is money just keeps on coming to me. I don't know, that's been kind of funny this past 2 months. Had a couple grand come to me just kind of out of the blue. I mean, I had to go out of my way to get it, but nothing illegal. It was old, like, retirement funds that I totally forgot about. I'm like, oh man, that's perfect. I could use that.
Yeah.
But,
You're just sitting there just for the right time, huh?
mm-hmm. Exactly. It was fucking interesting. And that was another one of those things I look back on, I'm like, wow, if I didn't do that 10 years ago, 9 years ago actually, it was literally 9 years ago this year. Holy shit. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that something? If I didn't do that stupid little profit share thing at my old job, I wouldn't have had that money. It was a nice little chunk. But it affords me just I get stuff with it. I get my clothes. I get some food. Treat myself sometimes. Got a new laptop.
Right.
Hopefully, we go on a vacation soon. I really would like to go on one of those, but I think I'm straying from the point of if
Do you have a
if
spot you're looking to go?
what'd you say?
Do you have a place that you're looking to go for vacation?
Somewhere quiet. Somewhere quiet where I can just do nothing. I got a lot of voices in my head, a lot of people that I just need a break from, and it's very much welcome. I've been trying to do this for a year, so hopefully it works out this time.
Gotcha.
I think the universe is just afraid I'm going to run away. But
Where you go?
yeah, exactly. But what were we saying about that? How I lost.
Yeah, I guess I track you a little bit with the vacation. But
Yeah, I know. That's usually the way it works. Jinx myself. That's what I always do. But what the hell was I just saying? It was if people like really understood how Jesus Christ, I'll even say like how reality actually works, even just like a fraction of a bit more than they do. They People would find a much bigger hope, I think, to want to progress. Because what was that thing I used to tell you, like when I first started this? Don't do a goddamn thing I do.
yeah,
I'm a crazy person. I'm just doing it to see what happens.
yeah,
And I have seen what happens when you fully let go, and it's fucking cool. It's really fucking cool. I mean, it's scary as fuck. There are days where I don't want to go out of bed. I'm just so scared of who's out to get me and why they would be. And I come up with these insane scenarios. They're not even that insane. They're actually really plausible, too. And every time that happens, I always find a really interesting perspective attached to it that I didn't have. And it makes that fear that I was just going through all the more worth it. Gives that reason behind the suffering. And it's like I was saying, it's like, why does everything happen for a reason? It happens for you. You're the reason everything happens for a reason. If you are, think of, like I was saying with consciousness, like it's a frequency. Every single human being is their own individual antenna to tap into that frequency. And you are the center of your own galaxy. You are the center of your own universe. Just as everybody else is the center of their own. We have our own reality and our own perceptions and our own ways of doing things, but so does everybody else. And if everybody else knew that they were the center of their own universe, what would they do? They'd probably all try to take over the world and kill each other. They'd thin themselves out for you. Because
the meat will consider the earth.
exactly. Because the key is patience. Who has the most patience? In every aspect of life, it's really a game of chicken with everyone and everything in your life.
Yeah, patience and forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, forgiveness. I look at forgiveness like this. It's like, yeah, I did the fucked up stuff that you said. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm an asshole. I know. It doesn't even bother me anymore. I look at other people like this. They did what they did for a reason, just like I did what I did for a reason. Who the fuck am I to tell them that they're wrong? They thought they were right at the time. eventually, maybe, hopefully, they'll
Figure it out.
see that they're just as accountable as you.
Yeah.
And if not, oh well. But I think everybody learns a lesson of some sort. Maybe not always the same lesson, but everybody has something. That I'm running a couple experiments on that too. But we'll see how that goes.
Right.
But yeah. Wow, we just did that for like an hour and a half, almost.
That's right. Time flew, right?
Yeah, man. That was pretty cool.
Very good discussion. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just cutting it off because I don't know. It just feels right.
End on a high note.
I know, right? Exactly. That was fun though.
Yes, sir. No doubt. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I'm gonna throw this on YouTube. You don't mind, dude?
Go for it.
Cool. Yeah, we definitely gotta do this again sometime. I miss these little conversations of ours. They're
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. I don't have anyone like you around me, so definitely appreciate your insights. So,
Ditto, my friend. Goes
Yep.
the same way.
yep.
Cool, dude. Alrighty. Anything else you want to rat on about, or?
No, sir. I'm I got some things that we have another discussion. Some topics for a later time, basically.
Cool.
So, but yeah. Again, thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, dude. Whenever you want to do this again, if it pops in your head and you're like, oh man, I want to do that again, just shoot me a fucking message. I'm always around.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll schedule something and then fucking sit down and fuck around again.
Okay.
Cool,
Sounds
dude.
good.
Awesome. I'll talk to you.
Yes, sir. All right.
Later, bro.